Hey y'all, I'm going to try to sketch out here the idea, sort of an architecture of our class. This is one version, but I think I need more space. This is going to be about the relationship between our processes, I guess. So one of those is going to be discussion. One of those is going to be, reading and preparing, viewing, doing work on your own. And this would be live discussion or face-to-face discussion. And then writing. And so writing in groups, in chats, in formal ways and informal. Formal with review and revision, informal. And ultimately this all leads to the portfolios, which contain a research paper. And these things stand, for, in some way, critical thinking. And maybe not so much knowledge, but maybe some sort of wisdom about things. And, some kind of ethical commitments that are better informed from all these things we've done all year. And this is, students, Huemsters. And over here is faculty. And in both places, really, both as leaders and peers are the fellows who get the bonus of being kind of in two places at once. So how do we get down here with these results if this is, some sort of representation? This is somehow stands for or represents this work over here, this critical, ethical, knowledge-based work on what we provide, we faculty provide. So the tools, sort of the logistics, where all this lives, ultimately Moodle will be the kind of default starting place that we'll never use, but Moodle will be a place sort of for indexing the link out to the course. And the course is our website, hume.davidson.edu. And this is mostly the schedule. What happens when, where everything is located. That'll be the go-to place for where am I? And that answers the questions where and when. Where am I and when, and what to do, assignments. That also will provide a link to the Huemster's final work. That will live here the way it did in the past. How we get to all these things, so this will be resources, will be linked directly. I'll make a little link note there. So the readings and the viewings and listening and artifacts, static things, these will be on the Google Drive or on the web somewhere, a stable URL, the library, and we'll just provide those links out. Those will always be one click. All right, so that's resources. Easy to get to. Stable. So live discussion, right across here somehow, the big communication platform is going to be Slack. And Slack is going to be where all the messaging happens, all the communication that is beyond this communication. And this is a decision we've come to, I guess, have come to, based on a lot of reading about things and student feedback. In the DLI student feedback session yesterday, there was a lot of positive discussion of Slack, messages, feedback. And Slack has, this is a kind of a footnote here, has different, I would call them registers. So there's, sort of formal announcements, informal Q&A, back and forth discussion. And these happen privately with a little lock signal. So private channels, the faculty have one. Faculty Fellows Meg have one. And then Fellows have one that I'm in. And then Fellows have one I'm not in. So I don't know about that. It doesn't show up on my feed. Those are all locked. And then there's public channels. So general announcements of interest. And then these are going to grow. And here you can see my basic idea of how this is going to happen. So this section here connects to this section here, which is a channel for Professor Rob's section, Professor Luis's section, Professor Tamura Green-Fashdenim, and then a channel for each AT group. These will change some as people's schedules change. We plan to change this every 2 units like we did last year. We'll see how that works. This will depend in some ways on, who's in what time zone and who gets shuffled and who can be shuffled and this and that, who has certain kinds of access and or not. And the idea is that these sort of home base AT groups or pods should stay pretty constant so that this is a real place of familiarity and security and trust. 12 fellows in the fall and 10 in the spring, it looks like right now. So that is what happens in the Slack sort of communication channel. Then there's going to be over here live discussions in Zoom. So this will be synchronous sessions. We know we can't always, we can't assume that everybody can come to those. So those sync sessions will be recorded as necessary, but the default is to record and caption and post, and those will be posted here, right? So the archive of what happens will be linked in the drive somewhere. So this will grow as the semester comes along. This will be, the Tuesday, Thursday morning synchronous sessions where possible. Probably we'll end up breaking out some of those Tuesday morning sync sessions. So if there's a sync session, say it's Professor Rob's group and it has 14 and 2 fellows and Professor Rob, he might decide to break that into sections A and B, that instead of meeting for 2 times 75 minutes a week totally, this group might meet 2 times 35 minutes, and this group might meet 2 times 35 minutes or something like that. Or maybe, we double that time and there's 3 sessions or whatever. This is all to be determined, but the idea is that small group synchronous discussions happen, and they happen regularly and predictably, and they happen in such a way that everybody can take part. This will be informed, these conversations will be informed by this basically homework. Close reading of the texts, commentary and annotation and discussion, on the page. We're going to use the tool Hypothesis for this. We're just going to pick it and go with it. It gets a lot of good reviews for this kind of work. Students who've used it really like it a lot. So this will be pre-reading notes, sometimes taking the form of maybe a discussion post or a read response mini essay or something like that. Those are all going to take place here in Slack in these channels. Right? So if we're reading Felix Frankfurt's bullshit essay in Professor Rob's unit, there'll be a PDF here that his group annotates and a PDF here that my group or Professor Luis's section annotates, etc. So there'll be those annotations and Hypothesis are stable and visible to everybody as you go. And there'll also be threads in this channel for each meeting over time, and those threads are archived and traceable and linear and visible. So the idea is that the homework, the reading and writing, happens in these groups, in these Humsters. I'll just write these Humster groups. That's written feedback messages for that. And then that in turn, that commentary goes over here to inform the live discussions, both with faculty groups and in the fellows AT groups, right? The assignment, what am I supposed to do, is posted here in the schedule. That's always the go-to place, and it'll then be manifested in the discussions. The messages and feedback happen in written way on the Slack threads, and then here in class. That then leads to always, what do we do with this stuff? Where does it go? It goes into each Humster's idea of the portfolio, which will have the sort of formal academic writing assignments, paper 1 and paper 2 in the fall, and paper 3 and the research paper number 4 in the spring, and those all end up here in some format in the portfolio. But much of the good feedback from fellows now is that we need to remind Humsters that this kind of intellectual work on the page in small groups here, live in session and conversations with larger and smaller groups here, based on the material, is connected to their thematic work of a critical study and understanding of the body through time, the racialized body through time, and the body in the moment of uprising in our society right now in the U.S. and at Davidson, that these things are related. So I'm going to stop there and try to build. I've got pieces of this all together, but build it. Well, not quite stop. So the question about too many tools and platforms, we have this, the website, which is static. You just go there and find out what to do. We have this platform, Slack, which is very active, but very clear about who you're talking to and when, and traceable. We have the archive, Drive, or a website, or the library where things are kept. That's really not a platform. That you just click the link and go there and get your file, or watch your film, or listen to an interview or a piece of music or whatever. Watch a archived recording of a dance performance or some other kind of performance or a play. Or maybe watch something live. I don't know, that might also happen too. So these are kind of static platforms, 1 and 3. 4 is Zoom, video conferencing, which can be scheduled and linked directly from Slack. You can do /Zoom in a Slack chat, and it will immediately schedule or turn on a live Zoom meeting between the participants. So that is internal there. Drive is also native in Zoom. You can put a link in and it'll show up with a preview in Zoom. So this is another platform, I guess, where a lot of action happens. This is really all in Slack, these kind of conversations. And then 5, I guess, is the portfolios that students build a domain. So domains, Slack, Zoom, the site. So that's a domain that serves kind of as a model, I guess, in some way for the domains down there. And what we'll just call the archive, where stuff lives, that is static. Okay, so there's really not 5 things going on so much. There's mostly, where do I find things? What do I read? How do I talk about it on the page? How do I talk about it with people synchronously? And then I build all that stuff, where I put my papers, where I create my portfolio, where I put my final work. I think this will work.